WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. 4 months after voters cast their ballots, the Okolona City Marshal's race is still being debated in court.
That's right. William Randall defeated Tommy Ivey Sr. by 1 vote, but Ivey believes some of those ballots were mishandled. As a result, decided to file a lawsuit.
WCBI's Quentin Smith was in the courtroom today. He joins us live in Okolona with more.
That's right, Joey. Court just wrapped up not too long ago. Today was day 3 of arguments and testimony. Now, Tommy Ivey Sr. filed a lawsuit against the Democratic Executive Committee as well as William Randall. Now, I do want to point out, in the election, Ivey lost to Randall by 1 vote, but Ivey is arguing that some of those votes should not have counted. In court today, Ivey's attorney argued that some of the votes came from unregistered voters, which would make them illegal. Therefore, those votes should not have counted. After hearing arguments and testimony for nearly 8 hours today, the judge made a motion to send the court into recess. They'll reconvene on October 25th, and that's when the attorneys tell me they expect to have a verdict on this case. Coming up tonight on WCBI News, I speak with the attorneys for both Ivey and Randall. We'll hear what they have to say coming up at 9 and 10. But for now, reporting live in Okolona, Quentin Smith, WCBI News.
All right, thanks a lot, Quentin, for following that story for us today in Okolona. In other news, Military Road was backed up for a bit this afternoon after a 3-car wreck. An SUV carrying a trailer stopped in the road, and 2 SUVs following behind ran into the trailer and one another. It's unknown as to why the truck carrying the trailer was stopped. 1 woman was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
And getting to the scene of an emergency such as that car accident will be a little easier now for Columbus Fire and Rescue. The department accepted some new vehicles and equipment today. One of the units is a rescue ATV. It's equipped with all the medical equipment needed to get a person out of the woods. The equipment was bought through a grant by Firehouse Subs Foundation. CFD engineer Marco Rodriguez says the department's new additions will help firemen better serve the community.
Our law enforcement brothers do an excellent job of trying to maintain order with traffic, but this will we'll be able to gain access to those areas to better serve the community without creating too much disturbance with a giant fire truck coming down the road.
The department also received a new communication vehicle, which will allow them to communicate with fire agencies across the state.
When we think of firefighters, we usually think of the big jobs, fires and rescues, but they are also some of the first on the scene of many medical calls. One
of the vehicles added to that fleet today will make that part of the job a little easier and more efficient. Our Victoria Bailey visited Fire Station 2. She joins us in the studio with more on that.
That's right, guys. Columbus firefighters answer 6,500 to 7,000 medical calls a year. And after seeing the success of a unit called Med 1, bringing in a second vehicle was a natural choice.
When an emergency comes through, we want to get there as fast as possible to be able to provide the best care that we can.
Columbus Fire and Rescue got Med 1 March 7th, 2016. And since then, Marco Rodriguez says it's taken quite a load off their fire trucks.
Alleviate a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on the more expensive rigs that are on the road, especially during normal working hours when we're training to maintain the standards. It is recommended or required that we maintain certain hours, so to have 2 guys jump in a truck instead of 4 guys or even more to respond to an emergency, that does help out a lot.
Alone, Med 1 responds to 500 non-life-threatening calls a year. Rodriguez says with such success, they are excited to add another vehicle with the same capabilities to the team.
Primarily for basic life support capabilities within the city limits. Med 1 is going to be on one side of town. Med 2 is going to cover East Columbus, Station 4 and 5's area.
And with the second medical response vehicle, the department will be able to answer 700 to 800 more medical calls a year faster and more effectively.
The biggest thing is it'll definitely cut our runs in half, splitting the calls between 2 trucks, as well as make our response times more efficient.
Now the Med 2 vehicle will hit the streets after the department's next hiring period.
All right, Victoria, thanks so much for that story.
All right, time now to turn things over to Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson. He has our first look at our forecast. Keith?
Sunny and warm out there right now in Tupelo, 82 degrees. The sun getting low on that western horizon. Still warm, still breezy out there too. We've had some wind gusts up to about 20 miles per hour today. Still widespread 80s right now. After 7 o'clock, we fall back into the upper 70s and then into the mid to low 70s later on, even a few upper 60s. Later tonight, though, we dip back into the low 60s and even a few upper 50s. Your full forecast for the upcoming weekend in just a few minutes.
Well, hospitals are supposed to be places of healing, but often dangers from the street make their way through the doors along with patients. These days, it's not enough, for future nurses to learn about medical terms and just caring for patients.
They also need to know how to deal with situations that may come their way on the job. Our Jory Talley joins us live in the studio with more on that. Jory?
Area nursing schools have recognized the need to prepare their future RNs for just about anything. But regardless of the patient's state or state of mind, nurses also have to be able to handle those cases with care. Nursing is a calling and isn't for everyone. No two shifts are the same and no two patients are the same. Nurses tend to spend more time with patients, and that can expose them to some potentially dangerous situations.
You can also have family members or people that have accompanied the patient into the ER who may be disgruntled at the patient that you have to intervene. And so there's a lot of security risk, and we work really closely with security to train the nurses so that they know exactly what to do.
Security risk mean nurses have to be more aware of their surroundings and learn how to handle whatever situation presents itself. Changes in the job have made their way into training as well. That training brings real-life experiences into the classroom for these future RNs.
A lot of the scenarios that we deal with in the classroom are scenarios that some of our instructors have actually dealt with before, so it's first-hand experience, and they put it into a classroom setting for us to allow us to understand how to handle that situation if it's given to us in the real world.
Technology allows these practice patients to be diagnosed with real health problems.
Asthma attack that actually declined to the point where the patient stopped breathing, and we used another student as a family member, and we had instructed that student to react a little more aggressively and violently toward the nurse while they were treating the patient.
Students not only spend time learning how to care for patients and deal with other problems, but also focus on communication.
We use scenarios here in our mental health class where we use other students from other classes to come in and be patients with disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, and these students have to learn how to talk to them therapeutically and deal with them on a one-on-one basis.
They can't prepare for every scenario, but the lessons help get students ready for their clinicals.
You can learn about the emergency department all day, but until you actually are there and experience it and, can actually see firsthand what's going on and how other nurses deal with situations, and so you kind of take all the text that you've learned and then you're able to apply it.
RN instructor Karen Taylor says dangerous situations can happen anywhere, but tend to be more common in the ER.
Harvest season is underway and a new crop is popping up in some fields.
We show you how it's bringing in a different kind of green when we come back.
Welcome back, everyone. Fall harvest season is getting cranked up and some farmers are finding a new crop among the cotton and soybeans tourist. Our field reporter, see what we did there?
Yeah.
Parker King is live in Caledonia with more on how farmers are making their fields more fertile for fun.
Andrea, it's a new cash crop called agritourism. In the next coming weeks, children playing on farm playgrounds and running through corn mazes will be a common sight for places like Country Pumpkins in Caledonia. Agritourism is one of the state's fastest growing trends, and farmers say it's because people love being outside when the weather cools down.
It seemed just overnight we looked out the window and there were so many people that we had to come outside and start taking care of the crowds. It's something that so many people are not able to enjoy, and so it gives us a lot of satisfaction to share and just to welcome the community to the farm every year.
On average, agritourism brings about $150 million into the state every single year. Live in Caledonia, Parker King, WCBI News. Andre and Joey, back to you.
Looks like a lot of fun. All right, thanks, Parker. Students at Tupelo's Lawndale Elementary will get a taste of farm life at school. The Lawndale Greenhouse was dedicated this afternoon. It will serve as an outdoor classroom so students can see where their food comes from and learn about healthy eating. The greenhouse was paid for by a grant from Toyota and proceeds from the Boyner Wild 5K that honors the memory of Hank Boyner, longtime director of NMMC's Wellness Center.
I think the important thing is that we've got this incredible outdoor learning laboratory that stands as a tribute to Hank and Hank's love for fitness for all citizens of Tupelo, especially the youngest. So I think incredible things are going to happen here.
A group of Tupelo High School students are using the greenhouse as their senior project. They helped collect thousands of seeds from Native Son Farms for the facility.
Thursday night football right here on WCBI, and just a few hours up here in Green Bay. A few showers approaching Green Bay, but around here we are high and dry, and it's going to remain that way for a while. The full forecast is next.
Your First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
A pleasant evening setting up in downtown Columbus. There are some folks downtown and roaming around. We have the art walk going on here for the next couple of hours. It's looking great weather-wise right now. No issues whatsoever. It's a warm and breezy Thursday evening. 85 degrees. The latest temperature as of the top of the hour, but as the sun gets lower and lower, our temperatures will continue to get lower and lower as well this evening, eventually to the 70s and down to around 60 tonight. We got the latest drought monitor today. You can see some abnormally dry color here. That's the yellow right there. So still not officially a drought, but it is becoming increasingly dry as we go through time. But we compare what's happening now with what was going on last year at this time. A lot of color on the map, and we just had that drought that was beginning to really become widespread and more intense last year at this time. So things not as bad, but we could use some moisture. Don't get me wrong, we could use some moisture. We don't really see any on our radar right now, and we don't expect any rain of any significance anytime soon. You can see all of that out there across the high plains. And right now, our official forecast here at WCBI is keeping things dry, at least for the next week. Lots of sunshine, very dry, still warm weather. Now, not as hot for the weekend, but still warm at or above average. 85 in Columbus, as we just mentioned, 83 in Huntsville, 76 in Nashville right now. So there is some cooler air coming on down from the north. 60 degrees or so tonight. Here's our planner for your Friday. Wall-to-wall sunshine, maybe a few friendly clouds, but a lot of sunshine. 60s at 8 o'clock, 78 by noon, 82 our mid-afternoon high. And then for Friday Night Football, we're talking 70s and then some 60s. So you may need a light jacket, but overall, things are looking pretty good during the course of the day. Here's the big picture. You can see no issues whatsoever across the Deep South as we go throughout the course of the next few days. Basically bone dry and lots of sunshine. A big area of high pressure comes on in from Canada. Will set up across the eastern seaboard, and this is going to be the pattern next week. We'll have a dry northeasterly breeze in here, and that will cut off the Gulf of Mexico, so no rain in the next 7 days, it would appear. So check it out with your 7-day. Low 80s Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Lows upper 50s to around 60. Mid 80s return, though, next week. Here's your forecast. Sports is coming up next.
WCBI Sports with Robbie Donahoe is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
There's an old phrase popularized by the former Mississippi State football coach Sylvester Croom. Maroon is all that matters. Well, Friday night in Webster County, that most definitely is the case. The annual Maroon Bowl pits county rivals East Webster and Eupora against one another on the gridiron. Friends and foes alike, this year's rivalry game could be the best ever. and there's so much more on the line than just bragging rights. You would be hard-pressed to find a better or more intense rivalry anywhere in the state of Mississippi than in Webster County. Separated by just 15.8 miles, East Webster and Eupora High Schools will battle it out once again this Friday in the annual Maroon Bowl. On the east side of the county, the Wolverines are aiming to close out a 4-year run against their rival, and with East Webster making the trip to visit the Eagles this year, they'll know it'll be even more intense in a road atmosphere.
We're excited about this football game. It's not only our rival, but it's also our first division football game. So, just a lot of emphasis has to be placed on this game. It's Eupora. Our guys know that. They've been focused this week in practice.
It's definitely one of the biggest rivalries I've ever been a part of. We compete with everything, whether it's test scores or in any sport, so it definitely means a lot to everybody around here.
On the west side of the county, Eupora is coming off one of the best wins in the state last week over Charleston. But the Eagles' focus now is on their first division game, which just so happens to be the team this year's senior class has yet to defeat. That's the goal and motivation for this Friday.
I just want to go out and make a statement, because they beat us the last 3 years. We just want to turn it around this year. Huge rivalry. It's always been a big rivalry, It's just always been huge.
It's big. We're 0-3, our senior class against East Webster, and we want to end with a win against them, for sure.
It's a big game, first division game, and of course it's a rivalry game, but it's two good teams playing each other, so that makes it a big rivalry when you've got two good teams that close together.
This year's Maroon Bowl may be the biggest and most important to date with everything that's on the line, and both schools wouldn't have it any other way.
It's definitely a different feel, even in the hallways at school, and at the game Friday night, it won't be anything like a normal Friday night. They'll all be into it, just like they have the past 3 years.
I just think it's fun for them. People can get after it and have a good time and rib each other. And simply because they're so close to each other.
The intensity is going to be there. Our football team's going to be excited, so hopefully we can go out Friday night and do the best job that we possibly can.
Kickoff 7 p.m. on Friday. The festivities begin 5 o'clock on location at Eupora with our Carl Hogan Toyota Game of the Week coverage. We'll see you Friday at the Maroon Bowl, where anything can happen. Should be a fun night of high school football. And that's just one game. We're going to have 20 game highlights for you tomorrow on the End Zone. Columbus, Tupelo, Northwest Rankin, Starkville, 2 big 6A games to watch out for. And everyone is in division play starting tomorrow night. So Itawamba, Amory, New Hope, Louisville are big 4A games. The big 3A game to watch is Houston, Choctaw County, and 1A, Smithville, Okolona, and Waya trying to stay perfect in Aliceville, Pickens County. A couple Pickens County rivals will do battle in that one. So should be a fun Friday night of high school football. We have Thursday night football tonight between JUCO football and TCPS playing as well. And stay here on WCBI. We got Packers-Bears tonight for some Thursday night football.
Who do you have, guys?
Packers will win.
Yeah, big time.
Bears are not very good. At least the Cubs can hold up Chicago well, right?
That's right. Won the Central last night. All right. We'll be right back.
Now, I am still forecasting here. We are updating these numbers. The overall forecast isn't changing, so I am doing work.
Okay, sure. Whatever you say.
Punching in a few numbers here and there.
Yeah,
somebody's got to do it, right?
He's got his feet kicked up on the desk all day.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.